Hello and welcome to the in-depth series of Drishti IAS. I am Pooja. So I have beside me a picture of a woman cutting off her ponytail in order to protest against the imposition of hijab in Iran. The woman is from Turkey, but she is protesting in front of the Iran consulate. Now these kind of symbolic gestures are extremely important whenever we are talking about suppression and oppression of women. Let us move on and talk about the different points that we are going to discuss here. These are the many points that we are going to discuss. Let's start with what has happened in Iran, what is actually happening in Iran. So Iran is a country, of course, we all know it. Its borders are with Turkmenistan, Afghanistan, Pakistan. We also have the important Chabahar port in Iran, remember that. Also Iraq, Turkey, Armenia and Azerbaijan. Okay, so remember the bordering countries of Iran. Moving ahead, what has triggered the current protests in Iran has to do with the death of a very young lady, a 22-year-old lady that by the name of Mahsa Amini. What has happened with Mahsa Amini is quite the tragedy. So she actually, when she got off from a metro in Iran on 13th September, she was caught by the moral police because, as alleged by them, she was not covering herself from the head. That means she was not wearing any hijab. This has been released by the authority, but an edited video shows that in the next, when she moves ahead with the moral police, in next CCTV, she was seen collapsing. So what has happened with her is yet a mystery. She has died in the custody of Iran's moral police on 16th September, triggering the current protests. Okay. Moving ahead, let us talk about the other important facts. Who was she? She was a 22-year-old ethnic Kurd in the Saqqez city of Kurdistan province. If we talk about Kurdistan as a nation, the concept of Kurdistan is of a nation as a whole that entails regions of Syria, Turkey, even Iran, of course, and you see Iraq is also there. So these many regions are, aspired to become the next nation by the name of Kurdistan, which is of course not going to happen in the near future. Let's see what happens ahead. Now, morality police detained her as she exited metro. We have already talked about that. They took them to re-education center. Re-education center is for those women who are not following the dress code. Okay. Who are the morality police in Iran? Let's know about them. These are also known as Guidance Patrol or Fashion Patrol. It was established in 2005 to ensure the compliance of dress code by the women. So both male and female officers are deployed in public spaces to look out for women who are not following the dress code. Okay. Moving ahead, let us talk about the protests. Basically, why are they protesting? So this was one of the, you can say it was a spark that was needed in the minds of those who have the accumulation of long time economic issues that are arising over there, and apart from, of course, the social imposition of hijab covering their heads. So news of her death outraged Iranians. For 3 days she was in coma and the news was trickling down through social media platforms. When her death occurred, many emotions, outpouring of emotions came into being. People took to protest on the streets as well as using social media. It spread from the capital city Tehran to Kurdistan to tens of cities across the country. Police responded with live fire and arrests, and demonstration spread. So we have entered into the 7th day of the protest now. Many people want justice for Amini. There are many narratives that are going over there. The basis is, of course, justice for Amini and the abolition of compulsory hijab. Because before the revolution of 1979, Iranian women did wear hijab, but that was according to their own wishes to further their traditional or ethnic religiosity, anything. It was a choice, but now it has become compulsory after 1979, and when it became a law, of course, it was imposed. Certain people also want to show how the security forces are working with brutality, how authorities act with impunity under clerical control. Death to dictator is one of the most prominent cries in the entire situation. Economic grievances are already there, which are fueling this unrest, and that has been done since 2019 itself. So if we talk about US sanctions, at the time of Obama administration, some 655 Iranian entities and individuals were sanctioned, and that became harsher in the time of Trump era. In 2018, when US unilaterally withdrew from the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, which was an engagement based on the premise that Iran will not enrich uranium for the use of nuclear weapons, Iran became further irritated. Okay, Iran's banks were cut off from the Society for Worldwide Interbank Financial Telecommunication, the SWIFT system, which has been in the news because of Russia-Ukraine war as well, because Russia was also cut off from the SWIFT system. If you are cut off from the SWIFT system, this is a financial messaging system. The international banks cannot process your international bank transfers. And this is a very important part whenever a country is a part of the international banking system. In 2020, more designations and sanctions went against the Iranian banks. Now, Iranian banks, if they cannot, you can say, if they cannot engage with their foreign counterparts with respect to international trade, they will of course start getting depleted. And the Financial Action Task Force in the same year placed Iran on the blacklist, because of which it also went low on loans. It could not garner loans and grants, and that is the reason the unemployment in Iran, it is exaggerating itself beyond records. So this is one of the reasons that Mahsa's death has also become a symbol to protest against the economic slowdown and the cultural issues that they are seeing. Let's talk about, in brief, about the history of hijab in Iran. Now, as I already told you, prior to the revolution of 1979, the Iranian women did used to wear hijab, but it was not very strict. As we see through these pictures, this is before 1979. But after the revolution, we could see gradual imposition, and finally a law came into existence in which there is a compulsory wearing of hijab. Okay, so remember that. Moving ahead, let us talk about the other very important parts. Islamist movement supported by the left, they overthrew the Pahlavi dynasty ruler Shah Muhammad Reza Pahlavi. Okay, and people themselves chose to live under the Islamic laws under the referendum when referendum was conducted. Okay, and then Islamic Republic was made. Islamic Republic rebuilt itself under the rule of Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini, and strict Shariat law came into practice, in which many imposition of compulsory covering themselves were imposed on women. Okay, moving ahead now, what happens? Why the government says that there is a compulsory wearing and adornment of hijab? They say because there are certain parts of Quran which say so, also the hadiths say so. So right now we have to understand there is no clear-cut sentence which advises or suggests or even imposes hijabs on women. And this is one of the biggest reasons when our Supreme Court talks about the essential religious practice doctrine, we will talk about that as well. Because if we have to talk about an imposition, religious texts are the basis of it. If any religious text is not very clear about it, ambiguity is there about it, why to impose it? Okay, and the resistance was, it's not like the resistance has come now. The resistance was there since 1979 itself, when the Shariat law came into practice. They said you have to wear, to the women you have to wear hijabs, but they resisted it. Okay, and there were fiery protests in which the government, the Islamic Republic government said that these were just comments, these were not actually going to happen. But everything changed when in 1983 it became a law, and the protests against the hijab have continued sporadically. In 2019 we also saw the protests. Okay, moving ahead, let us talk about the current situation. How is the Iranian government handling it? Iranian security forces have cracked down on the protests. At least 31 civilians have been killed, and widespread outages of Instagram and WhatsApp through which people are communicating with each other in Iran with respect to the protests have also been there. There are outages. Death to the dictator, as I said, is the most prominent or common cry we hear in Iran. Now, Raisi, he called Amini's family and promised that we will investigate the death, because the morality police there is saying that she died of a heart attack. and they are saying that she might have certain conditions, preconditions before she came into their custody. But the family is saying there is no such thing. She was very healthy and fit. Okay, and the point is that there is no mention by Raisi on her or the protests in Iran at the UN speech. The United States, European Union, and the UN have condemned it. Moving ahead, if we talk about the practice of hijab in India, it is of course a choice, but we saw wide protests when college in Karnataka said that please do not wear hijab when it comes to attending the classes. So the entire marathon we are seeing of hearings in Supreme Court with respect to hijab should be banned or not. Okay, before this, of course, the Karnataka High Court was dealing with this, and it said that we should give it to the constitutional bench, but the Supreme Court wasn't happy with it, saying that don't make it a sentimental issue or a national issue, because this is what you can deal with. But then after a marathon hearing of over a period of 10 days, the Supreme Court today reserved its judgment on a batch of petitions challenging the Karnataka High Court decision that hijab is not a part of Islam. That means it's not very essential to be worn. Article 14, 19, 21 and 25 are very important from this point of view. How? Because Article 14 talks about right to equality, and every person should be treated as equal, and equal protection of law should be given to those who wear hijab and not wear hijab. Apart from that, Article 19, freedom of expression, a person wearing something is also expressing their views, and that is why certain times Article 19 will also come into the picture. Article 21, right to life with dignity. If I want to wear something, that is my right to life, because I want to live my life like that, right? And the most important one, of course, Article 25. Article 25 gives me or every citizen the right to practice and propagate freely whatever religion I want to follow. And that also includes wearing certain things like hijab. And the most important doctrine is the doctrine of essential religious practices, which is interpreted by the court whenever we are talking about a practice. Is it essential to the religion or not? Now, this practice, the essential religious practices, are those which are very important to religion. If I change that practice, the entire religion will be changed. So this is the doctrine which has evolved itself through many judicial pronouncements. Okay, and this doctrine is to protect religious autonomy rather than to undermine it. The Commissioner, Hindu Religious Endowment Madras versus Shri Lakshmidhar Tirtha Swaminar of Shri Shirur Mutt case, also known as the Shirur Mutt case, is the main case in which the essential religious practices doctrine came into existence. Okay, and here the important thing is we have to make a difference between what are religious practices and what are secular practices. Okay, according to this doctrine, what is important or fundamental to the practice of the religion, okay, and what is secular in nature, it is optional in nature. Okay, so these are the important things that the Supreme Court is looking at. So right now we are not going to talk about that because the hijab controversy has already been covered by us. You can watch that also. I will provide you the link in the description. So the Shirur Mutt case is most appropriately related to which of the following articles? 15, 22, 17 or 25. So this particular case can be related to any of the articles, but importantly most appropriately. Okay, so that's it. Thank you so much for watching. Stay engaged.